What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Project Super Heavy, a rebound vlog post show. This is episode 3, and in it, I'll be discussing my week 2 and all the changes and everything that's gone on for the past week. I'm going to talk about my training that I filmed for the vlog. It was a um, chest, shoulder, and tri day as the first workout of week 2. Um, so that's what you guys will see, like kind of the second half of the video is everything that went on that day, explaining why, laying it all out. But as far as the actual training, I didn't talk about it when I filmed it. So I'll talk about that now just to give people an idea of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And then I will kind of just let the tape run on what I've already got in terms of what's going on with that day. So um chest, shoulders, and tries. This was like the first workout that I programmed. I would say that first week back, I'm pretty much just winging it and doing light weights and high reps, and just letting the food and hydration push back into the muscle. Nothing risky. And then, so this first workout back and this whole week back, I've kind of programmed in terms of what I want to do, the order that I want to do it in, how much volume, how many working sets am I going to do for each, like even somewhat of a target rep range, even though I truly in training don't even put a lot outside of my own intuitive feeling for rep ranges. Like I just go for the most part, near to failure all year. So with that said, I started off with a lateral. I still feel like, all of these body parts, first of all, are priority body parts. But over the last couple of years, my shoulders have improved quite a bit, and relative to everything else. And so after a long time of kind of feeling like I was guessing and not really like not having a formula to make this muscle grow, one of the biggest changes that I've made to reverse that or change that is starting any push or chest type day with side laterals as this is the ultimate priority. I'm doing these first, and usually it's quite a bit of volume. So this was 5 sets here, and it's this strive piece that actually has not only like beginning, middle, and end range, but there's 3 degrees per category. So it's basically a 9 setting loading system across this thing. It's awesome. It's the best. It's the coolest side lateral machine I've ever used. But so I'll start at like 5, which is just dead middle, and work my way towards the short end from every set. Didn't film it. I ended up doing probably like 2 warm-ups and 3 modestly hard 20s on a cable fly to get my pecs going. And then same deal, they have this strive piece, and I've talked about it before, but I've had pec injuries, and right now is not the best time to do anything that even could be moderately risky. But the pec itself has always been most skittish feeling loaded in that like shortened range. So certain things like I ripped it doing a barbell press originally. That was how I first got the injury. But anyway, long story short, so on something like this with the 9 setting like loading profile, I have it actually much up towards the shortened range. So I'm getting through a full range of motion, but the heaviest part of the lift is not the most vulnerable for my pec. And then they also have this strive, all the same like model stuff. They have this overhead press, which I think I need so much upper shelf, like everything from my collarbone down needs to be bigger and wider. So I in some scenarios, like if you already have awesome delts, there's a lot of guys that probably could just get away with only incline pressing. Being that it is such a priority, I feel like I should throw everything at it from like a movement and angle perspective. Um, so same deal. I kind of load these. This was more mid range, but still, I'm not like overloading that lengthened position because of the pec, the bicep on that side. There's been some injuries, so just being mindful of that. And so what I'm going to do, because mostly I'm doing pretty high volume. Um, Now a direct overhead press, I don't feel like it's a great overall allocation of that total volume. So here I'm just doing one work set, and like once I'm full throttle training, it will be one set that I take it there, and then it's a immediately right into a drop set, which is something I haven't always done, but I'm kind of giving everything a shot right now, or I would say revisiting certain ideas and philosophies about training. Tricep wise, and I come over and you guys will see I'm doing this overhead dumbbell. Not a top movement for me, but this is just what I have in right now. I definitely think about things for arms in whether or not my arm is down at my side or if my arm is overhead. I've started to think about how I select my movements that way. So I think with the triceps, I'm not sure that the research will back this, but like overhead shoulder positioning where you load something pretty stretched, I think it makes quite a difference. And then I have this Smith kind of elevated Smith push up that I'm just going to bring to failure, and I think this overall will help my stability, like with the pec and the serratus on that side. And one, it's more chest volume, and then it's also more tricep volume. Um, if I had to look at my physique, I personally feel like the tries and the chest need to come up most. And so this is kind of a good bang for your buck movement for all that. I feel my tries quite a bit. My pec feels safe, but I can contract it hard. Um, and like I said, I think it may improve that stability. Another thing is I've actually decided I'm going to do these both chest days that I have. I have a chest and an arm day and then the push day. Um, I've noticed I can obviously work my grip in or out depending on what I want to feel a little bit more, even from one set to another. It doesn't have to necessarily be locked in stone. So, um, yeah, those were good. I like those a lot. And then just a couple shots here that I had at the end. So that's the training and the philosophy behind it. I'll talk about the week as a whole, being now that I'm removed from like, this day in the life type video that you guys will see. So Um, that was Tuesday. This is Sunday for context. So I've had the full week now. I've had my most recent update with Compton, which I'm going to share with you guys with Justin Compton, my coach. Um, and so we'll dive into it. So Tuesday was the first day that I tried this Lantis and IGF protocol that I talked about with Justin. Um, I had my check-in that I covered in the last video in episode 2, so check that out. And then it was probably a day or two later, and we just had a conversation. I said, well, what do you think about Lantis, but only on priority days, like twice a week? And then to also kind of further like drive the demand for food, what do you think about training 6 days a week to go along with the high volume? And he was all for it. He's done and seen it all at a very high level. And despite the Kentucky draw, he's a very educated and thoughtful guy in terms of his coaching. So it's cool having these conversations with him. I mean, flat out, I'll tell you guys, he was like one of my first guys that I looked up to bodybuilding wise. Man, I remember meeting him at the Arnold, and it was like something you just can't explain if you haven't seen it up close in person. He was wild looking. Um, but anyway, yeah, the coaching wise, like, if especially I feel like I give a lot of thought and reasoning when I will ask. I'm not just saying, hey, let's add insulin, let's up the gear. Like, it's always a thoughtful reasoning why that comes along with. I'll say, hey, what do you think about this? I'm thinking X, Y, and Z. And I thought about just running it on the priority body part days would prevent a lot of the eventual tolerance, which leads to insulin resistance. That's when you hear guys talk about insulin has made me fat. And I've been there. It's absolutely a thing. Um, but anyone that's ever said that, it was because they were using it either daily or all training days. That's been the big recurring theme in my own use and then with clients. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to train 6 days a week. Out of those 6 days, what about using this 2 of them? And he was all for it. And one of the big things that we talked about, though, was checking my blood sugar throughout the day. He's like, I want to get an idea of what is going on all throughout the day. And to me, that number in an at-home finger prick method is basically useless. I think bodybuilders have put such a enormous emphasis on how much we care about this 1 second snapshot in time. And so I had previously spoken with a client, one of my clients, Kyle, and he was wearing a constant glucose monitor. And so I looked into it a little bit more and I decided, what, if I'm going to use this Lantus, and also knowing in the background that there's this retatrutide that should be managing my blood glucose as well, I'm like, I want to see what everything is doing. I want to see what a certain meal does to it. Does chicken and rice elevate my blood sugar more or less than cream of rice and whey, for example? I also wanted to see habit wise how big of an impact specifically post meal walks are. And I've found that they're enormous. At this point, I wouldn't, especially to clients, like say you ever should be adding cardio or things to the plan on your own. But there are times where I'm over my steps for the day, but I'm going to go do it. Like we have a treadmill in the house and I'll walk, or I'll go walk outside often as well for 10 minutes after a meal just to see how quickly the blood sugar comes down, especially if it was previously in an elevated spot. So I wanted to wear this thing and see it all day. And the technology is wild. Honestly, I'm super impressed. And I'm also just fascinated with all of this stuff. So how all of these interactions happen and um, just the way that we can modulate and manipulate things and, all this stuff works. So it's interesting. I wanted to see and know more about it. And it's been awesome. So the common theme for the week was how consistently low yet controlled my blood sugar was just from the retatrutide on the regular days, regular training days, rest days. Um, and I only got 1 day of information with it before I ran the Lantus. And so I, it was low. It was low all day for the most part. Um, like, it would rise to 105 or something after a meal, but then within like an hour it would come back down. So I'm like, man, I'm pretty sensitive right now. um Even I started to notice I needed to kind of manage how quickly I was drinking my intra shake, for example, because a couple of times if I finished too early in the workout and then just went to water, I was more likely to have like very low blood sugar at the end of training or even before I was done. So then seeing that with the Lantus, that's exactly what happened. So it was, I doubled this intra shake basically. I'm eating tons of I'm eating way higher carbs like per meal on a per meal basis. And yeah, I probably would have um, done more in the workout if my blood sugar was not low. So it's been interesting to see. But if I'm being honest with myself, looking at the pictures, um, like from last week even to this week, I didn't, I had started to notice this just at the very end of prep or my use in prep. And then I think seeing how I looked from last week to this week, I was 2 pounds down. And I was also noticeably just more flat looking. So if you're lighter and smaller looking, that's a problem. Not a problem, but you're flat. That's what it is. Um, which is an interesting all week response. Like from Compton doesn't play around. That last diet update, he moved the food up quite a bit. Um, I had the one day with the Lantus in, which brought my weight up probably 4 pounds the next day. But then by week's end, when it was time to check in, I was 230 this week, which for how close or how recent the show has or was, um, I'm 2 weeks post show at that point. To be in what are attempting to make a surplus, that's the idea of it, and you come down 2 pounds, I think I'd have to be a fool not to realize that this is probably the effects on your blood sugar and even just how quickly you are processing food, um, on top of whatever else it might be doing. I think there's like a exaggerated flattening effect that this can have. So I've toyed with the idea of lowering it to 1 milligram a week, but I think I'm going to leave it, having seen what we did with the diet most recently. So let me pull that up. So, um, you guys will see the full day of eating all that. And that was a Tuesday. So then I check in Saturday. And these, I'll show the changes and then I'll show the pictures too. And I'll kind of talk about what I think I see. All right. So this was that diet that I showed you guys, I believe, in the last episode, which was my basically an update at 1 week out. And then a couple days later, like I said, we talked about the Lantus. And so what I also sent to him was, hey, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to pull all the fats completely, like as much as I possibly can, both in terms of added and even just the protein sources you choose. Doubled the Intrashake as well, carb wise. Had the IGF in pre workout, which it's tough to tell right now. I mean, it's supposed to have obviously an insulin like effect and can lower your blood sugar. This is I've read and heard that some people take this post workout because of this. To me, I think it makes more sense to have it in you prior to training. But then I'm not sure how much of that is happening because of this, being that there's this retatrutide in as like background constant running software. It's lower than I could possibly imagine given this context from that. And then the Lantus is really pushing me down heavily. Um, so this was the macro breakdown then if I were basically to remove all the fat. Very similar calories, I think. So even a little bit less at this point from my Lantus days to my regular training days. So I check in. Justin sees it right away. He did say my conditioning is still really good. He's like, but you're flat here. Um, and I was like, yeah, I can see it in certain shots. Um, So then he moved everything up quite a bit. He even asked me, it's funny, he asked me and I just didn't really think twice about it, but he was like, is the cardio and the steps okay? And in my mind, I'm just like, yeah, like I talked about, I'll even overdo the steps if it means doing like post walk meals consistently. Um, I've not like I enjoy doing it. Makes my stomach feel better. Obviously, there's this big time effect on ongoing glucose when you do that. There's been a couple of times I've just gone and laid down on the couch, and those are the times that it will come up to 110 and hang out there for a bit before it starts to come back down. But most of the time, if I do a post meal walk, especially if it's 10 minutes, I'm back in the 80s or below the 80s within like 40 minutes. So it's almost like an insulin like effect from the retatrutide alone. So then I knew that Lantus would hit pretty hard, but it hit harder than I expected for sure. So anyway, we updated yesterday. He did bring food up quite a bit. So meal one, which is more cream of rice, added to this rice meal, and this one here, and then post workout went up as well. So then this was the update macro wise. And he was like, "Hey, I know that you manipulated that insulin diet. Bring that up a little bit beyond where the regular training day is. Let's see what happens." So I brought it up. I mean, the difference is 180 calories. But so this is what I'm doing. I brought the intra shake up again because I don't want to have that feeling where I almost have to like cut it short. I brought my salt up as well. I basically started doing two separate liter bottles filled, mixed even, like dispersed evenly. So like 40 and 40 carb wise to each of them. So I doubled my salt as well. I put the same amount of salt in each. So this is what we're working with. Lantus and IGF stay the same, and then pretty much just brought food up to most of the meals, and carbs are up. So carbs are 730 for that day. It shows on this constant glucose monitor your average for the day. It shows a live ongoing total, but then it'll also average it out. I don't know how exactly it does it time wise, but um, it says like a normal rate is 120 to 140, and mine has I think on this day, so yesterday actually, let me pull it up. So the average has been 88 or was 88 yesterday. So we'll see. I woke up quite a bit heavier today. I was 234 today following this diet. So I mean, pretty similar response to what happened earlier in the week on Tuesday. It will be interesting to see then if it holds or continues to push up, or if it pulls back down, or hopefully not quite as hard as this past week. This is how things are looking. This is kind of, I'm impatient, so I've already mapped out like what I'm doing next, even though I haven't done it. Um, so being when I checked in, and I've talked about this, I wanted to try and work this up. He knows about this too, and he wisely told me not to go straight to 20. But so I've worked it up, and I was at 16, and I said to him like, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. I'm obviously still pretty dry. I'm not having any carpal tunnel, and this is my blood sugar all day. These are the different readings that I had. I wrote him, I gave him a pretty detailed report, like much more than I would usually say in a check-in, honestly. Most of the time, I just send the pictures and the weight and say, this is how many weeks out, or this is how many weeks post show. But because I wanted to kind of give all the feedback I could. So, we talked back and forth. And then I said, because of the lack of the carpal tunnel, because my blood pressure is excellent, blood glucose is excellent, blood pressure hasn't been over 115, over 70. So I was like, I'm thinking I could move this up and it wouldn't be a detriment. And he's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm fine with that. So brought it up here. Next week will be the big test. And I'm kind of considering just doing this on my own. This is where he has me set. And I'll probably just say to him, hey, what do you about this? He recommended the VAR at this milligram and scheduling. And it's, low dose, infrequent. Um, supposed to be maybe the most gentle oral. I still just would rather pull it out. Um, Especially like at this dosage and frequency, I don't think I'm getting a crazy benefit from it. And I also then think it's like you're still paying some cost in terms of your liver with running orals. So I was just on heavy orals for the show. Um, and then the mass is like pretty mild, obviously, even if it's not milligram to milligram. The thought is like, the injectables are better for you, let's say. So this is how it is, PED wise. So I moved SLU up. I do 1,500 milligrams. Um, Morning fasted, and then pre-workout, which is usually like before I leave for the gym. So I've already had 2 meals, and it's probably been an hour since I ate when I have this. And I just moved the morning daily Motzi up, and that's it. I think all of this is pretty solid. It will all, or I should say, it mostly will trickle out. Like this will come out probably within a week or two. This here, the same. Him being at this dose, it doesn't really negatively affect me, so I'll probably just leave this. The grains of paradise is something that could come out. I'll keep L-carnitine, and I'm interested in the idea of seeing what it or how much benefit there is in a surplus and like at higher androgens. And then I not only have oral BPC 157 in 1 milligram every day, I do that 1 milligram every day injectable and also 1 milligram a day oral. So I'll do the oral first thing in the morning. I don't know that there's really any of these peptides other than maybe retatrutide. Retatrutide and SLU, both of them, I would say, they really do what they say, what people say that it does, or what it's supposed to do. But BPC, honestly, is probably the only thing that crazy exceeded my expectations. Everybody talks about it, or many people in this space talk about it, and I just never used it. Um, and then last off season, I was eating a crazy amount, the most I've ever eaten. And for a couple of days, or probably a week, I would say my gut was totally ruined. And I would get all the meals in, but I was ruined. Um, like painfully, like bloated and gassy. It was terrible. And then I took this, and I remember on the second, or probably the night of the second day of taking an oral, I remember texting Justin and being like, this is a miracle. This is fixed. And he's like, all right, keep me updated about it. And every time it was just like I was just hungry and things were good. And then talking to some of the guys that are really educated in the space, it does seem injectable BPC, especially if you take it before night with your growth hormone, apparently they're more effective together. And I've seen great like stability in that pec that I've talked about has been previously injured. A lot of times when I was super lean and dry and deep in prep, or even the first couple of weeks of a rebound, I would feel shaky and unstable. And this has really taken that away. I didn't feel that way really at all in prep, and then I don't feel that way now. So I would say the overall response is greater than really what I even expected. I would probably stay on, on both versions for the foreseeable future. I don't see why I would take it out. Health subs, I think I talked about this last time. If not, this is what I'm on and how much. And so that's that. And then I'll show you guys some pictures. So these are, let me see if we can like crop this better. All right, so this is 2 weeks post show. Last year on the left, 2 weeks post show. This year on the right. I'm about the same weight. I think I'm 2 pounds heavier here. I think I'm 232, or maybe I'm 234 here last year. And then, like I said, 230 here. Obviously, the lighting's different. I'm still crazy tanned here. Um, the angle is definitely a little bit different. Face is pretty similar. I would say I'm a lot more dry. I mean, I know my physique and I can see that I'm flat here, but I have this like dry look to me for sure. I think the camera might be a little bit higher here. The lighting is better here. I think the camera's a little bit higher here and it kind of favors my upper body, but I think it appears like my pecs are definitely better. I think everything looks pretty much bigger. And then obviously the legs are much harder. So this is good. I think maybe they're a little bit more sweepy here. I was way more full blown. So I was way lighter on stage last year than I was this year. And even being perfectly on plan, like once the Monday started, after the show last year, I if I could compare the two, I did like a celebration weekend after this show and then just started the rebound plan Monday in terms of food and everything. Whereas this year, I told you guys, I had, so the following Monday after the show, I just did one meal, like before bed, like one no carb meal. So I basically fasted all day and it really reset where I was at. I mean, I've also continued all these fat loss agents and peptides in an effort to see what would happen if you did this same type of adherence and protocol, but in a surplus. So I have a little bit more fullness, I would say, here in the legs, but obviously much harder. So that's a good, I'll make that trade. So again, the lighting's way different and I'm way tanned over here, but pretty noticeable progress. I think the legs, I mean, again, a little bit of a different angle, but I put a ton into my legs again this year, especially like hams, glutes, adductors. And I think it paid off. I mean, definitely just tighter. Pretty much making the same face in this one too. So we'll see what this week brings. But yeah, that's pretty much everything, guys. Hang on, watch the end of the video. That's where the good stuff is. I talk all about everything. I talk about um, the insulin. I talk about the IGF, the GH, um, the SEO, all of it. I talk about all of it there. So thanks prior to that for everybody that's followed along. And I'll catch you guys next time. What's going on, guys? Good morning. You would have just watched kind of the big picture overview of week 2 of the rebound, like big picture. And then, so starting today, I'm going to be giving you a zoomed in look at one of my days. And this is the first time I'm implementing this, I talked with Justin Compton, my coach, and chest, shoulders, and arms are still the biggest priority. So I have 2 days a week that are where I'm training those, main body parts. Today is chest, delts, and tris. And so we are going to be implementing Lantis, and I adjusted my diet so that the calories are nearly identical to what my regular training day is. However, I've done my best to remove all of the fat. So the added fats that I have in my last meal of my regular training day, I pulled that out. And then I'm swapping out all of the protein sources. There's no red meat. There's not even any chicken. What I'm doing is fat-free whey isolate, liquid egg whites, and shrimp all day. And I kept all those numbers the same. So really what I've done calorie-wise is just replace any of the calories that came out with the fat, and I'm added in more carbohydrates. So you guys saw like meal by meal in the spreadsheet how it looks, and then I'm just going to walk you through each meal as I do it. I'm going to walk you through what I'm taking, when I'm taking it, and then it's all there. I'm also going to include what I'm doing in the gym. Since it's such a new approach, I'm viewing it like it's an experiment. I've never done a style of training the way that I'm doing now. So I'm going to walk you guys through all the aspects of it. I already took my kind of like oral fat loss agents. I got a little bit of Clen. I got oral BPC for my gut, Grains of Paradise, yohimbine, SLU, 5-amino 1MQ, cardarine, and that's everything in terms of like orals. I'm going to be doing, these are like crudely labeled because I buy them in bulk and they come in a box that's labeled, but I'm going to continue with the AOD 9604. That stands for anti-obesity drug. Love it. Can't say enough about the results that I've seen from site injecting that into my fattier areas like my love handles and outer glutes. I have my MOTS-C. I do 1 milligram of that every single day. And then today is one of my retatrutide days. Right now I'm doing 500 micrograms. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for a total of 1.5 milligrams per week. And guys, I have to tell you, being now that I've transitioned more to like a surplus and I've continued to use low dose retatrutide, I started wearing this constant glucose monitor. Let me see if I can get that in there. So it just is a live feed of what your glucose is doing. And yesterday I ran just my regular training day, so it's more moderate carbs. There's some added fats. And I honestly, for most of the day, not only felt like it, but I was getting readings as though I had been on exogenous insulin most of the day, and almost too much exogenous insulin. Like, I'm talking like 45 minutes to an hour after a big carb meal, my blood glucose is below 80. After I trained and I had an intra-workout carb shake, and I got back to the car and checked it, and I was at like 65 or something. Started to get like shaky and hungry like you would if you were going hypo. So that's just from the retatrutide alone. That's no insulin, no IGF. And so part of me today, obviously I brought the carbs up to replace the calories from fat, but part of me is wondering if the amount of carbs that I have allotted for this day that includes Lantis is even going to be enough. So we will see. but it's been wild. It's been very interesting wearing the glucose monitor. I think there's I'm surprised that it's not discussed or used or talked about more. I'm pretty blown away by the technology, to be honest with you. Both in terms of my own bodybuilding and my own biology, and then also coaching. I am going to learn and take so much from this in terms of food sources and what they do, meal combinations, and how different combinations of protein and carbs affect blood glucose, supplements, and just habits. Like, for example, I take dihydroberberine with a lot of carb meals. I do post walk meals, or I do post meal walks. Sorry, after a lot of meals. So being able to monitor the response to all these different things. I purposely, in my regular days, regular training and rest days, I have no carbs with my last meal, and basically, I eat my last meal basically 2.5 or 3 hours before I go to bed, and then I take my GH before bed. And so, seeing like overnight last night, I don't think my blood sugar got above 105, and that's on 16 IUs of GH. So super interesting to me, nerding out and kind of getting constant insight into something that normally would be a little bit inconvenient, like doing the finger prick, and you're kind of just getting a snapshot in time that's not super reliable. So with all that said, I'm going to do these peptides, I'm going to do my cardio, I'm going to do my vacuums, and then I'm going to hit meal one. So I'll bring you guys back in as I get through the meals, and I'll talk to you later. All right, guys, cardio done, vacuums done, stretching, foam rolling done. I'm about to do my Lantus before I do meal one, and I just wanted to show you guys this. I thought this was more like common knowledge, but I get messages from clients and stuff about buying the tips for the pens, and there's just no need. You just take an insulin pen and put it in the end of the pen and extract what you need. So I am doing 25 units of Lantus to start my day, single dose. And that's that. Meal one about to go down. All right, guys. Meal one of this, I guess I would consider it a high day, high carb day, zero fat day, new protocol type day. Meal one, I got, let's see here. I got, I think it's apple pie, uh, rice and grinds, Pride Foods, cream of rice, um, 50 grams of Nutribio whey isolate. That's one of the fat-free flavors, and I want to taste what this cream of rice tastes like, so the vanilla just made sense. 100 grams of banana and 26 grams of organic honey, so that's 20 grams of carbs. Just had Atlantis. I'll put this meal down. I'm going to do a little walk. And then I may lay back down before my meal two is usually my pre-workout meal. So I'll catch up with you guys then. All right, guys. Meal two. This is going to be my pre-workout meal going down. Um, to give you an idea of how the Lantis and also the retatrutide are kind of managing my blood glucose. I'm less than 2 hours since my first meal. That first meal was about 125 grams of carbs. Blood sugar is coming back at 87. It was 80 upon waking. just to give you an idea. So generally anything under 140, 2 hours after a meal, is considered normal. Bodybuilding wise, probably you want to be under 120, I would say. So this is exceptional, you know, really good spot. So what do I have? I have for meal 2, for the pre-workout meal, I have egg whites, 50 grams of protein from egg whites, 100 grams of carbs from rice, that's 350 grams cooked, and then another 20 grams of carbs from honey. I also put sugar-free chocolate syrup on this to kind of go, the honey is kind of already making it sweet. And the Lantus has my appetite just ravenous. So something sweet sounded good. I'm going to try it. It might be kind of funky, but I'm going to give it a go. I'll kind of film myself go through what I'm going to do for like pre and intro workout as well. I'm just trying to show everything in a day. That'll include the IGF. And then after that, you guys will see what I'm doing in the gym. All right, guys, pre-workout time, intra-workout time. I always do my intra in a big liter bottle, 32 ounces. I do 20 grams of creatine in there, 2 grams of salt. I just recently started this, doing ribose as half of the carbs in my intra. I got the idea from Scott Mislinski. Apparently there's some pretty interesting research on the fact that this product, while also being like a pretty easily digestible carb source during training, it can improve ejection fraction on an echocardiogram. So I found that to be interesting. I'm always trying to do whatever I can to make sure my health is good while I'm pushing the envelope with bodybuilding. So I'll do 30 grams of carbs from the ribose, and then I'll do a full serving of leg day, and that is another 30 grams of carbs from cyclic dextrin. There's some hydration and amino complexes in there, EAAs. Make sure I get this right. Okay. Just to make sure on top of it, and just from like a taste perspective, I like adding my own EAAs on top of it. This Intrablast product from NutriBio, strawberry lemonade flavor, absolutely delicious. Goes well with I think that one's peach. Doesn't sound like it would mix, but it's a nice little combo. So that'll be my intra. I do this bad boy. This shit is crazy. The taste is so good. The new pre from NutriBio. Just take a. I don't do a full scoop right now. I'll do like probably about 250 milligrams of caffeine, so that ends up being like 2/3 of a scoop. And then this is the part that everyone's excited about. I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing. Again, my own labels on them because they come blank, labeled in a box. I'm going 500 micrograms total of IGF, separated into 4 different shots. So I'm training chest, shoulders, tris today. I'm gonna do 125 in each pec. Right, 125. Yeah, 125 in each pec, 125 in each tricep. I will put my gear and L-carnitine in my side delts, and that works out like evenly, because right now what I'm doing is about 1 ml of gear, and I do 1 ml of L-carnitine. And then I'm going to keep it super brutally honest with you guys and let you in on something that I'm trying. I am going to be trying a little SEO in my arms. I'm not going to be doing one of these like big 3cc protocols I've read about. I think a couple times a week. I'm basically doing biceps twice a week and triceps twice a week. You know, one as a standalone arm day, and then, you know, back bis, chest tris. So on those days, I'm going to put probably 1 ml or 1.5 ml in each head of the bicep. So 2 on each side, and then just up at the top of the tricep, just one shot there. So I'll kind of move those around as I see fit and kind of see what it does. But that's the whole pre-workout, intra-workout routine. That's what I'm starting right now. I'm kind of throwing the kitchen sink at it right now in an effort to kind of spark a whole new look, especially to like my upper shelf, like these body parts that I'm training today. So that's everything. I will see you guys in the gym. All right, guys, just finished up chest, shoulders, and tris. Man, finishing my last set. I didn't film it, but I was doing kind of like a superset of front and rear delts on the cables. Started to see some spots, and checked the glucose monitor. I'm at 63, so I gotta eat. Same meal as meal one: cream of rice, whey, honey, and banana. Of course, there's insulin in. You know, Lantus is supposed to be longer, extended. There's no peak. It's just stable all throughout the day. So seeing this response and seeing my response yesterday with the higher volume approach, even without the insulin in, I am feeling like having retatrutide in combination with pushing the higher volume just creates this crazy demand for food. That's just been an early observation. I'll touch back in, you know, later in the week when I do like the full recap of the week. I'll see if that continues, but I think it in general makes sense. That just doing more work, the work that I'm doing is also quite a bit more condensed, meaning I'm getting a lot of sets in, a lot of reps in with shorter rest periods. So I think that's just driving a big demand for food. I think the retatrutide is also a big part of that. It almost feels like my body has been programmed by the retatrutide to know how to perfectly time and microdose or dose exogenous rapid insulin, but it's my own endogenous internal production. So just some early thoughts and observations. Had I not gotten this similar response yesterday without the insulin in, today I would just be chalking that up obviously to the Lantus. But being that it was the same yesterday, it's interesting. It's definitely a pretty cool experiment. So I'm gonna get this meal down, drive home, and I'll probably be getting my next meal in, I would say, within the hour. So I'll touch base with you guys then. Full day of eating continues. Just got back from the gym. It's less than an hour since my post-workout meal. Blood glucose, blood sugar is at 71. So I'm going to eat. I'm going to put this down. I got 200 grams of shrimp, 300 grams of rice. I'm going to see how I'm going to respond to this, and I may make a on-the-fly call to add more food to the next meal. We'll see. This has definitely like buried my blood sugar at the different spots of the day. more so than I expected. Now you could say, okay, maybe you need less Lantus, and I think that probably makes sense. Um, in combination with the retatrutide, it seems like I kind of knew going into it that, man, it almost looks like the retatrutide is giving you the benefits of using exogenous insulin without any at all. But also, um, this also tells me that I can handle more food. And, this is a point I'm not worried about. Of course, I don't want to get soft. I'm not looking to get soft, and I'm looking to nail this. But I don't need striated glutes right now. Like, the idea is to be a bigger bodybuilder, and this is a great time for that. So it's either I could lower the Lantus for the next time I do this day. I'm also wondering if the IGF has something to do with how drastic the blood glucose drop was. But really, this just tells me I could probably handle more food on this day, especially only being um, that I'm eating the same amount of calories as my regular training day. And obviously, the demand for food is higher today. So I will probably end up pushing this up, but we will see. So those are just some initial thoughts on the fly as I go through this first day with this setup. So I'll keep you guys posted. All right, guys, meal 7 going down. This concludes the full day of eating, full day in a life. I got my whey isolate blended up in the Ninja Creamy. Not many better ways to end the day in terms of being on plan and being a bodybuilder. So that's everything. Thanks for everybody that followed along. Give me a comment if you have any questions, if you're curious about anything that I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Let me know what you think in the comments.